Welcome back to World of Warcraft multiboxing. Um, we are going to set up the first of my soon-to-be 4 multiboxing alts. And these are the characters that will follow behind my main character, performing various tasks based on the buttons that I press. Now we need to start with add-ons. So you can see my add-on list here. Now compared to my main character, if you watch the first video, you can see that this list is a lot smaller. And I don't even need all of the mods I have here. I'm going to disable the CT male mod and master mod. I'm going to keep damage meters because the mods actually communicate with each other across a hidden chat channel, so that everything's in sync. This client's will record its damage and then send it to the main client, so that all of the damage is accurately reported. So I'm going to leave that active. I of course want my Discord action bars. I want the foo bar because it's nice to be able to see those things. When I multi-box this screen is actually made very, very small, and is placed on the bottom of the total monitor window. And then I have the main screen across the top here, and each of these I'll have 4 windows across the bottom. So it's nice to have a mod that will quickly give me information just by looking. I don't actually have to click the window and then go into, say, an interface window, and in order to figure out what my durability is or how much money that character has. Load it, I don't really need. I don't believe I need move anything. 1 bag, 1 bank, yes, and then X loot will keep that as well. But for these alts, I want to keep things as simple as possible, which means you don't need a lot of mods. I mean, really, you could probably just get away with Discord action bars. And actually, the reason I keep them low too is because it saves on, CPU usage and memory usage when you're multiboxing. Which, if you're like me and you don't have the most powerful computer in the world, every little bit helps. So we'll go ahead and enter the world. And as you can see, that even though I'm a human, and the human starting location is in Elwyn Forest, I've taken a high-level alt, Warlock alt, and summoned him so that he can start with my Gnome Warrior. So we'll start, let's start by editing the chat channel, and I don't really need to be in anything like guild, not bad, whispers, sure, party, okay, and yeah. I do want to see my XP gain and honor gain. I want to increase the font size to as large as it'll go. And that's because, as I said before, it'll be a very smallish window down at the bottom of my screen while I'm actually multiboxing. So the bigger it is, the more readable it is. Let's go ahead and unlock the window. Oh, see, now I realize why I want a chat mod was so I could... It allows you to mouse scroll through the chat. I'm going to log out. No, for the purposes of this video, I don't need to do that. It's a convenience to be able to chat scroll and not have those buttons on the screen. But for the purposes of this video, I won't force you to sit here and watch me log out for 20 seconds and then re-enable the mod and disable it. Looks like I'm having the same problem I had before with simple minimap. So the text command for that is /smm for simple minimap, and then I think it was active. Oh, I don't have simple minimap. Ha! I don't need it. Well, I guess I really don't need that, and that can actually come up here. Now you can see that I've got my foobar. You can actually drag this up and down. I like to have it across the bottom. I'm going to move that further up. Now see, I also want to enable move anything. Well, that's fine. I don't actually need to see my action bars. I'm just a little spoiled with them. Okay. So the big one is Discord action bars. Now, like we did for the my main character, we're going to first go into miscellaneous options. I have a priest clone already loaded. Or already in there. No, I'm going to start a brand new one. Let's go default. And let's just call it priest. Okay. Now we're going to go to our button layout. Oh, and it's already been set to 0. I'm going to create my floaters first, and I'm going to create all of my buttons are going to be floaters. And for these alts, I'm going to have an E key, an R key, a T key, an F key, and a V key. Is that all I need? I'm not going to use the shift modifiers on my alts, so I don't need those. Excuse me. I'm not sure if you'd heard that. And then like my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 keys will be on a bar. Should I add a G key? My main didn't have a G key. I don't really like the G key, it's too far away. That's only a little bit further than the T key, though. We'll leave G out of it. So we've got 5 floaters. That'll be good for my main keys. And then we'll add to bar 2. Alright. Let's go with main menu bar. And we're going to hide the art. Let's go pet action bar. We don't need. Priest on shapeshift. We don't need the bag bar. Don't need the macro bar. We can turn off these tips. Okay. You'll notice everything looks a little stretched and the text probably doesn't look exactly clear. That's because I'm running this in 800 by 600 mode. Just to save on memory and CPU usage. Let's go. I don't know what I'm doing here. We're gonna go auto configure that. And then the first floater will be our, let's go with E. R. No. I use the F key the most. And then I use the R key. And then T, V, and E. And these are going to be the most complex of all my keys. So let's go to Smite. And we're going to want this one to be big. So let's see how big 100 is. And let's anchor it. See, the anchor point is the point on the button itself. So I want that on the bottom left. And I want that, I guess that'll be bottom left too. Yeah. And that's not very big. Now I believe I can go above 100. Yeah, 200. And now again, we're taking into consideration, this looks ridiculously big, but because this will be a small window down here when I'm playing, making it extra big is nice. But 200 is probably just fine. I can always edit it later. Now the problem with the way I'm doing this is going to be an 800 by 600 window, and everything's all stretched out. So when I change it back to actually being 800 and 600, all my buttons are going to shift around. So going to the trouble of moving it exactly precisely on the edge of the screen is a little pointless, but I'm kind of OCD about it. Okay, so this is our R key. And it's lesser heal rank 1, which doesn't really matter at this point. Let's anchor it to my F key, and we'll do top left is the anchor point of the icon, and then I guess top right. There we go. Just trim the edges and get rid of the border. Maybe I'll get lucky and it won't shift so much. And then let's see, this is what, our T key? And we'll just do, this is going to be bottom. No, that's going to be top, bottom. And this one will bind or anchor to F2, and then it'll be left, right. And last but not least, second verse, same as the first. Top, bottom, up 5, turn button edges, and get rid of the alpha. Let's go to change actions. And let's open our macro window. And you can see I've already got a lot of macros in here. The one we're looking for is the weight. And this is the button that gets used when nothing else is getting used. And it's just going to assist unit party 1 And actually, hopefully that text is readable. I'll have to review the video to determine whether or not it is. But basically, it's an assist unit script. Whenever this will be bound, say, to my F key. Well, it's complicated. We'll get into it. Here, let me... What I'm going to do is set my F key with no condition, or set up a condition, no condition, which is basically all the time. And then I'm going to have it set action, and I'm going to set it to action 1, which is going to be wait. And so now whenever I hit the F key, now whenever I hit the F key, you can see I have no target because there is no party 1, but it's assisting party 1. So any target that party 1 has, anytime I hit the F key, it will set that as this character's target. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to paste that into all of these key bindings. And you can see when the button's empty, it acts funny. So you have to go in here to set action IDs and change all of these manually. And then after that, see, even though I changed it to smite, because the button wasn't empty, it went to wait. It functioned the way it's supposed to based on the conditions. Now we also want to, this character I'm planning on having being a Shadow Priest. I've got a Druid Healer that I'll set up later. So let's go to the change actions. I don't need refreshing spring water or Darnassan blue on there. Other than that, yeah, completely empty. Now I like to set these actions. I like to separate them out. And actually, this lesser heal, I'm not even going to use. I'm just going to use it as a placeholder. Because I'm going to have all my healing, they're going to be macros in one spot. And then I'm going to have all my damage spells in one spot. And actually, as a priest, we'll keep it at 30, that's fine. And then I'm going to have all my other spells, or not spells, but just like this wait macro here. I've got a follow macro. I've got a do not disturb macro, apparently. I've got a dance macro. I've got a what I call the 6 macro, which will go on here. And actually, I need to set up bar 2 while I'm thinking about that stuff. So let's unhide bar 2. And it's a biggin. The size, we want it to be big, but not that big. Let's give it 2 rows. What's it look like at 3 rows? Let's make it 2 rows. And I can put it across the bottom, but I'll need to move the durability over to the right. And same with the money. So let's anchor it to the parent. And we want to go bottom and bottom. And set this to 0. Let's try 40. Yeah, that ain't bad. All right. Let's change, I think, if we just do 1 to 1, apply, new. I guess I'll just have to go through here and do it manually. But I'm just going to set all these to wait. Which I'm now regretting having made 20 of those buttons. But you never know if you'll need them. It's nice to have a button where you can, for like say a mage, because I'm going to use the same setup for all my different kind of characters. I'll be able to copy paste a good deal of this from the profile over to the other characters. So I think we're ready there. Oops, I didn't want to close that. So let's start, by adding a conditional. I want to start with smite. So I want it to change the action to a smite macro when an enemy target is selected. So I think if we go target is hostile, we're going to set action, and actually this is probably a bad idea, at least to start out with. Because the early mobs are all neutral, not hostile. So it might not even switch to smite at all. Well, we'll see. And now I need to go in here and I need to edit what are called the overrides. And this just means that if this first one is active, this one, it ensures that this one isn't. So it doesn't get confused as to what icon it's supposed to be. If I went over, as it is, if I went over and targeted a hostile creature, it would basically kind of freak out. The icon would switch back and forth between this wait icon and the smite icon that I'm going to create. So we need to set that to overridden by 1, which is that. If there were a third one, I would want it to be overridden by 1 and 2, possibly. There are sometimes you don't want certain things to be overridden by. So you notice the key didn't actually change at all. It's still on that wait macro. What happens? Okay. So there it went. It switched to smite. It's redded out because it's out of range. But I guess I was wrong when I was saying that because those are neutral mobs, it doesn't switch, but it does. So you can see, before it turns red, it switches over to smite real quick. And let's go ahead and we're going to create a macro. That's weird. Okay, we're going to copy this script out of here. It's script assist unit party 1, and then script assist unit raid 1, and then the raid 1 is in quotation and brackets, and then there's I believe that is a semicolon at the end of that, if you're typing this out. You can Google these macros, just Google World of Warcraft Classic macros, and you can get all these /scripts. It's a bit more complicated than the newer WoWs. They simplified it over the years. But I'm going to Control-C that, i.e. copy it. And then we're going to go here and we're going to create a new macro. And I like to set the macro icons to what the actual spell you're using is. So, nicely I was able to find the smite macro rather quickly. So I'm going to name the macro A for assist, P for party 1, which is going to be the main character that this character follows around. So assist party 1, and then we're just going to put S for smite. So we're going to hit OK. We're going to paste that, and I just remembered I didn't need to copy the /cast part of the macro. We're going to open up our spell book, and we're going to click here, and we're just going to cast smite. And there's our macro. And we're just going to replace that. So, now you can see, when I select a target, it switches over to assist party 1, cast smite. Without that, without a target selected, it's on this wait macro, and anytime I push the F key, it assists the now non-existent party 1. And that, for now, will be our F key. Now, I've got some other macros here that I just keep forgetting about. I also need I need to set a key, because I'm not going to be using WASD movement with this character. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bind my W, A, S, and D keys to buttons. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to here to my change actions, and I'm going to put a follow macro right there. And now we are going to go to bar 2. And we're going to go to button control. So for this first button, I'm going to paste the condition that I had copied earlier before into it, and it's our no condition wait key. So that means it's always going to be set to wait if we don't put any other active conditions in here. And for these keys, we don't want any active conditions in them yet, so we're just going to click on every button and work our way down and paste that condition into all of our buttons. And of course I made 20 buttons, so it takes a while. But this just makes sure that all of our buttons are working the way we want it to at the start. We don't have to mess with it while we're actually multiboxing, because that takes up a lot of time and it can get annoying. Okay, so now we're going to go to button 16 here, which is my WA button. And I'm going to edit this condition, and instead of setting it to wait, I'm going to set it to follow. Oh, that's the action ID? Button ID, no. So apparently button 1 of 16 doesn't correspond there. Let's just do that. So we want button 11. Set it to follow. Okay. And we also, let's go ahead and copy that, and we're going to paste it into 12. And so now anytime I press W, A, S, or D while using my main window, my main character, this character will follow that character. It means that pretty much no matter what I do, the other character is following me, which is good some of the time. It's good when you're questing in the overworld. Once you get into instances, I'll change that and then use, actually, let's go ahead and copy this, and we're going to go to button 4, and we're going to paste that in there too. So when I get into an instance, rather than relying on these, I'll set these WASD keys to actually set this wait macro. So that then, anytime I press WASD in my main window, it will actually assist him rather than causing him to follow. And then anytime I need him to follow, I'll press 4. I'll usually move him through the instance to where my next pull is going to be, set him there, take my main character, pull, and then pull him back to where I have the characters waiting. Which you'll see once I get these characters into an instance, but for now, that's just a quick explanation. Now my 6 button, you notice I have a macro, which I'm currently on, which is called 6. That's just my lazy way of coming up with a name for it, because that's what my 6 key is going to do. So let's go back to change actions. We're going to move this 6 macro, we're going to put it on action 3. And we'll go back to bar 2. And that is button 6. We're just going to edit that to button 6. Now, if you look over here at the macros, you can see it's a script, accept group, closed parentheses, and then I believe that's a semicolon. If it doesn't work, then it's a colon, but I think it's a semicolon at the end. And then you also have script accept quest, script accept trade, script retrieve corpse, and script repop me. What this does is it allows me mainly to form a group easily from my main window. My 6 key will be bound in my main window to an invite key, which will have this character's name in it. It will have the other 3 alts, and then by pressing it, you get the group forms automatically. And then as well as, say I share a quest. I pick up a quest with my main character, rather than going to each window and selecting the quest giver manually, I can open my quest window, hit share quest. It will share the quest if the other characters are eligible. I hit 6 and it accepts the quest. Accept trade, if I want to, my bags are full, but on my alts have plenty of space, I can trade, hit the trade button here, and then just hit 6, and it will automatically accept it. Same for retrieve corpse, and repop me. I think if you die, the repop me will send you to the graveyard. So that's what that macro does. And as of starting out, I think that's all we need for those ones on the bar. Let's get back to the R key, which is this 2 here. Oh, and actually, for this alt, my FR and T key are going to be very similar. My E key will be different. My V key will be a drink buff key. So if I'm low on mana, it'll drink. If I have lots of mana, but I don't have my buffs, so for example, Power Word Fortitude, which priest guess. In fact, you can see the macros I've created for those here. Those are all the macros for Power Word Fortitude. And you can see I've got Heal Party 1 macro, Heal Party 2. Oh, Heal Party Pet 2, Heal Party Pet 1. So since these are all going to be the same, my F key is the key I hit the most, and it represents a key where I'm tanking a single mob. So all the DPS focuses on that single mob, all the healing focuses on that single character. The R key I use when, say, I'm trying to pick up aggro on multiple characters. It has, rather than heroic strike, it uses cleave. I think I'll have things like piercing howl bound to it. AoE effects that affect more than one character or enemy. Anyway, so let's open my spell book. I have lesser heal, but I don't have any buffs. What we'll go ahead and do is we'll set up some healing conditionals. And this is where the power of Discord action bars really starts to show itself. Because you can set up conditionals based on the health of your other parties. So let's see, lesser heals for 46 to 56. Now I only have 51 health. And I think my warrior is about the same. I didn't really pay attention. But if we come down here to health lost, so this condition is going to become active when the health lost of party 1, which is always the party leader, is greater than, we're going to say 25. So if the health lost of party 1 is greater than 25, we are going to want to set the button action to action 30, which is lesser heal rank 1. And we're just going to go ahead and add that condition. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our macros. I'm going to take this heal party pet macro, and it's set for cast heal rank 4, but I'm going to put lesser heal in there. And I'm going to modify this. It's, for if you can't read this, which is possible, it's /script target unit, and then party pet 1 in parentheses in brackets with a semicolon at the end. Could be a colon. I can't tell. I believe it's a semicolon. And I'm going to change this to just say party 1. And then it's going to target party 1. It's going to cast lesser heal. And we're going to go to our change actions, and we're going to drag that over. Heal party pet 1, actually. And this will just be, we'll call it lesser heal party 1. Oh, cool. There we go. So, and now you'll notice you can move these up and down. And the way you kind of figure out what the order is you put the most important thing at the top. So I definitely, if the health of party 1 is less than 25, that's an important thing that needs to be dealt with. So we definitely want that as an updated. It should be LHP1. But we definitely want that to be dealt with before, say, you cast Smite. So we put the most important stuff on the top, and then we override things as they descend in order. And that's just the way to keep things organized. I mean, technically, you could have these out of order, and they might... Well, no, I guess they wouldn't work, because then the 2 no longer corresponds to this 2. It would respond to itself. So that's how you get the overrides. So now you can see we don't have a party 1, so that's never going to be active. Now, if we don't have a target, then that means that one's not active. And that means that since this one's overridden by 1 and 2, but only overridden when 1 and 2 are active, that means that this one is active, and it sets the button to wait. And then if I select a target, there it goes. It switches it to my smite macro. So that's how we set that up. Now, let's say that we want to heal the other parties, or the other members of our party. We are going to set that up by going to health lost, same as the one before. And we're going to actually select the player itself, which is this character. So if the health lost of myself, the priest, is greater than 25. Oh, and actually, I'm not sure I want to do this, because it means I'm going to have to make a bunch of macros. 4 macros specifically. I'll wait. Before I go into the first instance, I'll show you that's when it's necessary to set up heals for other party members. But right now, I don't think we need it. What we're going to do instead is we're going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to paste that into my my R and T key. And then V will be a drink key, which we don't need to set up yet, and E will be a key I only really use in instance, so we don't need to set that up either. And I actually think that brings this character setup to a conclusion. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and get set up for the next character. And I will see you then.